In this video, I'll be talking about some of the main themes I want you to think about in The Man of Law's Tale and The Wife of Bath's Tale, which both of these tales include prologues as well. So, as you remember from some of my lecture about the frame narrative and the different tales within them, we know that these tales talk to one another. And we also know that the Man of Law's Tale occurs in fragment 2 and the Wife of Bath's Tale occurs in fragment 3, which means that normally they follow each other in many of the manuscripts. So I'd like you to be thinking about, how do the Man of Law's Tale and the Wife of Bath's prologue and tale talk to each other? Is there a way that the Wife of Bath is trying to respond to the Man of Law's tale or offer a retort to the Man of Law? In the Man of Law's Tale in particular, there's a lot of interest in the central character of Custance, whose name also means Constance if we translate it into modern English. In this tale, we can notice the prominence of two really powerful forces. The first is that of commerce. At the beginning of the narrative, we have merchants from Syria in Rome who encounter Custance, and then they tell their sultan about her when they return. We also have a very prevalent role of religion in this tale as Custance moves around the world converting people to the Christian religion. Now, we can see that both commerce and religion in this tale have travel in common. These are two systems that send people all over the world for different purposes, and this is certainly a story that sends people all over the world. So, in addition to that, I'd love for you to be thinking about how commerce and religion are being portrayed as either similar or different from one another in this tale. And this leads to my next question about Custance. Would you regard her ultimately as a commodity in this tale, or a traded good with little or no agency? Or is she a force of conversion as she travels around the world and very powerfully converts people? Which way do you see her? Or maybe you see her as both of those things at once, or neither of those things. You have an alternative proposition. In other words, how is Custance participating in these two systems of commerce and religion that seem to dominate the world of this tale in particular? And finally, I want to draw our attention to an image that becomes associated with Custance in this tale that seems very powerful and important, and that's of a rudderless ship. I've put some text from our translated version that we're reading for this week on this slide. I'll read the translated version below. And Custance have they taken right then, immediately, and in a ship entirely without a rudder, God knows they have set her and told her to learn to sail out of Syria back to Italy. So Custance throughout this tale is on a ship without a rudder, the rudder being the thing that gives the ship direction, the ability to steer itself. And I would like you to think about what that symbol means about Custance. Does that make her, again, a kind of powerless commodity just floating around in this boat? Or does it give her even more power, considering she goes all around the world without a rudder on her boat? Another image to think about. I also want you to think about where this story takes us on the map. We start in Rome, if we're thinking of Custance in particular. She travels to Syria. Then she travels up to Northumberland, which is in England, and ultimately back to Rome, where when she's finally reunited with her husband, who is the King of England, their son becomes the new emperor, the new ruler at the end of the story. What are the larger implications of this journey of Custance? Well, we see that Syria is excluded because the trip to Syria did not work out, the Sultaness killed everyone, and Custance barely escaped with her life. Instead, she travels to England, marries a king there, and they have a son who becomes the ruler in Rome. So this really creates a really important linkage between Rome and England. And remember that Rome, from England's perspective in the Middle Ages, is seen as a very powerful place. It's the center of the church. England sees itself as far less important. So this story links together England and Rome and makes England part of that powerful empire rather than someone who's outside of it. It also, as I said earlier, excludes Syria. And so I want to draw attention to the religious, political, and racialized implications to this ending, as it seeks to exclude those of Syrian heritage, those of the Muslim faith, in its construction of a kingdom that includes Rome and England together. Finally, despite that division between Syria and England and Rome, one thing that I find super fascinating about the Man of Law's tale is this recurring phrase, thraldom and penance, used by Custance and the Sultaness in two different moments. Early on in the tale, when Custance is kind of assigned to marry the Sultan and has to travel to Syria, she says, I, wretched woman, no matter though I die, women are born to servitude and suffering, or thraldom and penance, if we're looking at in the Middle English, and to be under man's governance. This is Custance's lament about the conditions of being a woman in this time that really limit her. And we see the Sultaness say something incredibly similar when she worries about the threat of Custance's invasion, essentially. What should come to us from this new religion except slavery to our bodies and suffering, or in the Middle English, thraldom to our bodies and penance? So I would like us to think about, too, why you think that this language, this identical language, thraldom and penance, comes back in the mouth of both Custance, who the story celebrates as our Christian heroine, and the Sultaness, which the story vilifies as our non-Christian Muslim villain, essentially. And yet they're united by this kind of shared experience of the oppressions of womanhood. Why do you think this story is connecting them in that way? Okay, I'll pause and go on to the wife of Bath.